I've been using red light therapy every single day for the past 5 years, and in that time, the science has evolved quite a bit. So let's break down what we now know about its therapeutic potential and what I've personally experienced along the way. Let's get started. This video is sponsored by Element. Hey guys, it's Robin, and welcome to the Science of Self-Care, where we fall in love with the practice of taking care of ourselves so we can live better longer. I'm so excited to share my 5 years of red light therapy in this video. I've used it on my face, my body, I've used it on my head, I've used it to try and heal a scar on my back, and I've definitely learned a few things, especially for those of us with sensitive skin. Before I get into my personal experience, I actually want to review some of the new exciting research related to red light therapy. When I think back to when I first started using red light therapy 5 years ago, it really felt a little bit more like a fringe biohacky thing and not something that a lot of scientists were necessarily on board with. But now, 5 years later, it really feels like this is a mainstream therapeutic tool that there's lots of research to back up. So I'm super duper excited to go through the research, and then we can get into my personal takeaways from 5 years of using it. Let's get started. Part 1, the current science. So I recently found this article published in Nature, I believe last month. Actually, my father-in-law sent it to me because everyone in my life knows I'm obsessed with red light therapy. But this article does a really great job of breaking down the various applications of red light therapy, what is more established and well-researched, what are some more experimental applications, and even some theories on how red light therapy really works. Because it's quite odd to think that light could have such a strong impact on our physiology, even below our skin. But if you think about it, it's not a new idea that light can influence our physiology. I think most of us know that vitamin D is actually made in our body through exposure to sunlight. But in the case of red light therapy, we haven't always understood exactly how it's working in our bodies, but people have been observing the benefits of red light exposure for quite some time. Modern red light therapy, also called photobiomodulation, emerged in the 1960s after a Hungarian scientist accidentally discovered that low-level red light stimulated hair growth and accelerated wound healing in rodents. And since then, it's been really well studied in skincare. There's strong evidence for its use in wound healing and to promote collagen synthesis. And it's also a clinically validated tool for hair loss and other conditions, largely on the periphery of our body, like nerve damage to our extremities and age-related macular degeneration, essentially reduced eyesight as we age, which I actually have a genetic risk factor for myself. My great-grandmother was completely blind by the time she was in her 90s, so I'm trying to take care of my eyeballs. But there are also expanding and less certain applications of red light therapy, including muscle recovery in athletes, depression symptoms, pain like in osteoarthritis and fibromyalgia, as well as metabolic and cardiovascular health. Interestingly, the mood-boosting effect that's noted in depression research is one of the first things I noticed when using my red light mask every morning. It just starts my day on a bright note, pun intended, and makes my morning feel a little more pleasant. But what's actually happening in the body during a red light therapy session? The leading explanation centers around mitochondria, which are the tiny structures in our cells that convert nutrients and oxygen into usable energy, ATP. And this powers nearly everything that our body does. More specifically, red and near-infrared light can penetrate tissue and be absorbed by cytochrome C oxidase, which is a key mitochondrial enzyme. This may enhance mitochondrial activity and increase ATP production, essentially giving our cells more usable energy. That said, this is still a leading hypothesis, not the only mechanism, and other pathways may include things like reactive oxygen species signaling that tell our body to repair our tissue, and nitric oxide release, which can help improve oxygen availability and usage in the area. It makes sense that the most well-studied applications are on the surface of our body, skin health, gum health, but that doesn't mean that photobiomodulation isn't effective at addressing deeper issues using specialized tools. There are emerging studies on neurological conditions like Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's, and traumatic brain injury. A 2022 randomized study from Brazil found that patients with severe COVID-19 who received daily light therapy left the hospital on average of 4 days earlier than those who did not. So there's still a lot more to uncover, but it does suggest that something meaningful is happening. But perhaps one of the most thought-provoking ideas from this Nature article is that humans today are exposed to less red and near-infrared light than ever before in our history. Our indoor lifestyle, where we're spending 90% of the time indoors, means that we're basically spending time under LED and fluorescent lighting, which have very narrow spectra. In contrast, for most of our evolutionary history, we were exposed to sunlight, and especially sunlight at sunset is very rich in red and infrared light. So we may be biologically adapted to a broader light spectrum than most of us now receive. I'm actually going to do a video on sunlight very soon because, as you can see, I'm pale, I'm often wearing sunscreen, but there's some really interesting research coming out about sunlight, so stay tuned for that video. In addition to red light therapy, another thing that I've been using for many years, and that is a part of my health and wellness routine, is the sponsor of today's video, Element Electrolytes. Traditionally, I have loved and used their electrolyte packets, allowing me to do things like hot yoga where you lose a lot of electrolytes, but this year Element launched their slim can sparkling drinks, which I'm truly obsessed with. This is the equivalent to half of a packet, so it's kind of the perfect pick-me-up when I do a little bit of something sweaty but not too intense, or I just feel I have a dehydration headache coming on, which can definitely happen living in boiling hot California. Like I do. They are super delicious, only 5 calories. They have no sugar. These are available online or in Target. But if you are just someone who generally does a lot of sweaty workouts or does a lot of saunaing like my husband, right now Element is offering a free sample pack with any Element order if you use this link, drinkelement.com/selfcare, or scan the QR code here on screen. Thank you, Element, for sponsoring this video. Now let's continue talking about red light therapy. Part 2, my personal takeaways. Now that we've gone through some of the science behind red light therapy, I would love to share some takeaways that I've learned over 5 years of using it. These takeaways are relevant for skincare purposes. They are not necessarily relevant to some of the other applications of red light therapy that we discussed. Just keep that in mind. Number 1, less is more. Or perhaps you could say simplicity over complexity. This is probably my biggest takeaway from my many years of using red light therapy, because over the past 5 years, I have seen so many companies want to keep up with the times. Companies are adding more gadgets and gizmos and features to their red light therapy devices to kind of stand out from the crowd in a very saturated market. However, my favorite red light therapy devices continue to be the most basic ones, the ones that have 2 wavelengths, a red light wavelength and a near infrared wavelength that fall somewhere between 600 nanometers and 1000 nanometers. So all the devices I really love and continue to use will have a wavelength, for example, at 660 nanometers and 830 nanometers for the near infrared. And with these 2 wavelengths, I get all the benefits that I need without sensitizing my skin. I've seen in recent years that companies want to add even higher frequency wavelengths above 1000 to really deeply penetrate the skin. Well, what I've noticed with my sensitive skin is that actually irritates my skin and does the opposite of what I'm looking for. I want my red light therapy to calm and soothe my skin, to brighten my skin to even skin tone. And if I use a wavelength that's above 1000 or below 500, which is also popular with blue light, which fights acne, these wavelengths will actually sensitize my skin further, cause more redness, and they're kind of defeating the purpose of why I'm using my red light therapy device. Now, here's a caveat. We all have different thicknesses of skin, different skin sensitivity, and researchers are still trying to understand whether red light therapy operates differently on different skin tones. Males typically have thicker skin than females. Does that influence the ideal dose of red light therapy for that person? Perhaps. So I just want to say that with my experience having very thin, sensitive skin, if I wander too much outside of this specific range of wavelengths that cover the red and the near infrared wavelengths, then my skin is likely going to be sensitized. In this same vein, a lot of masks like this one from Shark Ninja have extra features like eye patch cooling pads. I personally don't like all these extra features because they often take away from just the simple red light therapy benefits. In this mask, those eye patches actually cover up an area where I would like red light therapy to be emitted. So that is why I just follow this general principle of stick with the basic wavelengths and don't overcomplicate things. I think another great example of this is the current body masks. The Series 1 mask just had 2 wavelengths that again fall within these ranges. I loved this mask. This mask works really well for my skin. Then they came out with a Series 2 mask that added a third, deeper penetrating wavelength, and this mask actually sensitizes me a little bit, so I prefer the older, simpler mask over the newer mask. Now, a lot of people do like the newer mask, especially if you are someone with a little bit thicker skin or less sensitive skin. This mask may work just fine for you, but likely the Series 1 mask would also work just fine for you. So that's why I like to err on the side of caution, especially if you have sensitive skin, and just stick with what the research has shown has been clinically effective. Number 2, results take time and consistency. Using a red light therapy device every so often is not going to give you a noticeable benefit. The reason I mention this is that if you don't imagine yourself using a device at least 5 times a week, then it's probably not worth the investment. And this is actually why I personally prefer a red light therapy face mask over a red light therapy body panel. In theory, the body panel is more versatile. You can also hit your face while getting your body. However, the fact that I need to undress in front of a red light therapy panel and I need to stand there, that actually is a barrier to me using it as often as my face mask, which I just put on first thing in the morning. And this simple habit of just laying there for 10 minutes with this mask on my face, it doesn't matter what I'm wearing, doesn't really matter what state I'm in. I just lay there for 10 minutes every single morning because that's such an easy, repeatable habit for me. I've been able to stick with this every single day for 5 years. I do not miss a day. Even when I was in the hospital giving birth to my baby, I brought my red light therapy mask because I'm a diva. So the point is really that you just want to choose a device that you envision yourself actually using on a daily basis, and if not a daily basis, around 5 times per week to get the maximal benefit of your red light therapy device. And if you don't imagine yourself actually sticking to that routine, then it may not be worth the investment. Number 3, don't overlook the practical elements. So any device that is being used day in and day out, especially like my red light therapy mask, which I literally use every day, you're going to expect some wear and tear. So make sure you do research. You want to make sure you're buying from a brand that will be helpful, that will honor their warranty, and also read reviews about the customer service of that brand, because there is a chance that at some point your device will break down or have an issue. So just do some research and make sure you're also taking care of your device. My first mask, I feel like I threw around a little bit more. Now I'm very careful about how I transport and hold my mask. So I'm going to show you it here. I never let the weight pull on this junction of my masks because this is where connectivity issues can happen. So I always hold my mask like this and carry the battery pack, if your mask does have a battery pack, separately so that the weight of the battery pack is not putting any tension on this area. So by just being a little bit mindful about how I carry and maneuver my mask, it has definitely extended the lifespan, and I haven't had any issues in a long time. Ultimately, what keeps me using at least one red light device every single day is that I notice results. My skin is calmer, smoother, brighter when I use my device. And in terms of full body results, I definitely notice that my extremities have a little bit better circulation. I think it's important to have reasonable expectations of what a single device can do. So in addition to wearing my red light mask every day, I also have an extensive skincare routine that includes tretinoin. I also make sure to do the basics, to eat well, to move my body, and to try to get good sleep. Granted, right now, my sleep routine's a little bit thrown off because I'm taking care of a newborn. But in general, if you are eating well, moving your body, and sleeping well, that's also going to support the health of your skin, the inflammation levels of your skin. Also, if you love this topic, you can check out some of my other videos on red light therapy linked down below. As always, I have been talking so freaking long. I want to hear from you guys. Please share your red light therapy experiences down below, any questions down below, and any tips and tricks for us down below. A lot of these devices are expensive, so my hope is that you feel very confident and informed when making purchasing decisions, and that you're not too swayed by any fancy, shiny gimmicks or 7 lights or this new feature. Just sticking with the basic clinically validated wavelengths will already get you a long way. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time.